Tonight I'm going to ask you, where are you getting your fake news? Anybody? There's a big debate going on in the world, isn't there, today on what's news and what isn't. It started over the independent news sites covering the pedophile ring in Washington, D.C., and everybody got to pointing fingers at each other, and the MSM calls the independent news fake sites, and the independent fake sites calls the MSM fake sites. So we're caught in the middle of a group right now of what to believe. You know, there's nothing in America that is more important to us than the truth. I mean, that's the truth. And when you have an independent press that will report the truth to us, then we're better off. But if we don't have an independent press in America, we are going to be betrayed over and over again because nobody's keeping an eye on the folks in Washington. So we need the truth to know what that is. Now, as I said, how are we going to know the truth? What is the truth? Where do you find truth? It's interesting that came up in a conversation one time when Jesus was on trial there at his crucifixion. And he was asked, what is truth? And that's a very good question tonight, to know what is truth. Is there any truth in the world? And of course, I think there is truth in the world. And that truth is found in God's Word. And that's where we find it. That's where we hear it. That's where we follow it. And truth is available to us if we will listen to it. As you are aware, I have been concerned over the past couple of years about Americans, especially Midwesterners, sort of being asleep at the switch. We're not awake. We're not watching what's going on. We probably have chosen to be that way. It's more convenient. It's less stressful to keep your head in the sand. But as you are aware, Jesus did not want us to be asleep. He wants us to be watching and to be aware and to be awake. And so tonight we're going to be dealing with that issue of trying to be awakened, to stay vigilant, to watch what's going on in the world. And so we're going to follow a text here in Luke. We're still in Luke. We're in the 18th chapter tonight. And in verse 31, we read, Jesus took the 12 aside and told them, we're going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written by the apostles about the Son of Man will be fulfilled. Verse 32. He will be delivered over to the Gentiles. They will mock him, insult him, and spit on him, and they will flog him and kill him, and on the third day he will rise again. The disciples did not understand any of this. Its meaning was hidden from them, and they did not know what he was talking about. Now, we know what he's talking about. We are on this side of the crucifixion, the resurrection. We know what he meant. But the disciples at that moment, the truth was hidden from them. I'm sure Jesus had told them over and again. As we've walked through the book of Luke, you have heard it yourself where Jesus told them he was going to Jerusalem to be crucified, to die for our sins. And now here we are, and we come up to this point, and as you'll see in a little bit later, we're almost to Jerusalem now. We're almost there. We're walking up near Jericho, in fact, today. We're real close to Jerusalem. And when they hear this story, when they heard Jesus say he's going to Jerusalem, and he's going to be crucified, just like was prophesied in the Old Testament, well, the apostles, those closest to him, didn't even know what he was talking about. I think they probably chose to be willfully ignorant of it. They didn't want to deal with the impact and the emotions of what was going to be required of them and of their lifestyle, their teacher, the one they loved, the one they followed. I'm sure they just preferred not to think about what was going to happen. And so they had been able to dilute themselves and get lost in their lifestyle, get lost in their travels, and be diverted from the real agenda, the real thing that was going on in the world. Now, I find tonight that we as people are very much like that. We can be diverted, we can be blinded, we can miss the most important things in the world. We can miss all of that stuff that's going on right around us and forget to turn our cell phones off before we come to church. But we can be, right in the middle of our lifestyles and not see what's going on around us. And so that's tonight, I think, part of what the burden of this message is. They were blind. To let us in on how Jesus felt about how we live in the dark. See, Jesus was aware of that. He picked up on the fact that these guys were in the dark. That they didn't know what was going on. And so I think he's going to tell us these next parables in a way of waking us up. I did not turn that off, did I? Hello? Now, by the way, I still didn't turn it off. I apologize. Many of us are sitting beside the road, and so what can happen? See, tonight I'm trying to encourage us to wake up, to be aware of what's going on in our world, and what can happen when we wake up, when we look around and really see what's going on in the world. What can we see? Well, let's go to verse 35, then, and we'll begin to read here. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside, begging. Notice he's blind. And when he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening. They told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. He called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on us. Now, here we go. We got this guy. It's very important for people of faith to know what's going on around in our world. It's very, very important. Too often, as I said, we live in the darkness, just trying to get through our day. Have you noticed that? It seemed like we're just trying to get through the day. And I think this blind guy was sitting here on the road, just trying to get through the day, trying to get a little bit to eat, trying to have a little security, a little something in his life to give him the resources he needs. He was just sitting by the road, and as I said, trying to get through the day. Now, when this blind man, when he meets Jesus, everything about him changes. Everything changes when he meets Jesus. I mean, there's nothing to say. And isn't that so transferable to the modern world? When we meet Jesus, it changes everything. Every part of our life is never the same again. So we see that when he heard the commotion going on. Now here he was, sitting beside the road, and this crowd of people begins to move by him. Now we don't know how many are there with him, but we know at one time or another there have been 5,000 to 10,000 people with Jesus. Now I don't suppose there was that many now, because things have changed, and he's told them about his mission, and I think some have fallen aside. But there still was a lot of people moving with him through the countryside. So he's sitting there and he hears this commotion of people passing by, and he cries out for help. He says, he cries out. He says, we hear him use two different names here at this point. He says, first of all, he says there in verse 35, as Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging, and when he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening, and they told him, and here they said, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. He called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. So he used two different ways to refer to him. The crowd told him one thing and then another. So let's look at those two names. He called him Jesus of Nazareth. And why did he call him Jesus? Because Jesus was from Nazareth. That's where he was born. He is a Nazarene, and that plays a lot into even prophecy in the Old Testament that said that the Messiah would be of that countryside, of that area. And then he called him Son of David. Jesus, Son of David. Now what we need to know is that Jesus was in the direct bloodline of King David on his mama's side. And right down through Mary's blood came the royal bloodline of the Hebrews, and it came right down through Mary to him in this royal bloodline. Now his cry was for help. He said, have mercy on me. He begged out for mercy. He called out the right name. And the only name in the world that can heal, the only name that can save is the name that he cried out for. Now I want you to step back in your life for just a moment. And for a moment, stop trying to get through the day. And just for a moment, open your heart and your mind and your thinking and your intellect and all that. Just open up today. And ask the Lord to show you what He's doing in your life. Lord, where are you working in my life? What are you doing around me? Are you at work teaching, showing, revealing, prophesying? What are you doing in my life? And I think if each of us will take a moment and stop our busyness, stop our lifestyle just for a moment and say, God, what are you doing? Would you show me what you're doing? And then when you find it, listen, when you find what He's doing, cooperate with Him. Ask Him to help. Say, I want to help you do this. I want to be involved in this. I think one of the secrets to finding purpose for our lives, truly one of the secrets, is to find out what God is doing around our lives. To find out what He's doing and then join Him in that journey. If God's working in a family, join God, helping Him work in that family. If God's working in a community, teaching something, join Him. In other words, what you find God doing, then get involved in that. You'll find purpose. Now, when we open our hearts and our eyes, we can see God moving in the world around us. And also, I think, we can focus on what we really need to pray for. I think sometimes we don't really know how to pray. I think I do too. I think if I'm not careful, I'll find myself asking for people's healings, and I'll ask Him for, to bless this and to do that. And sometimes I think then in our praying, we don't really know what to pray for. I'll be honest with you, there are times, especially when I'm dealing with someone of your families, and you'll call me to come, and I've done this so many times, and I will ask the family, I said, well, how do you want me to pray? Because there's a time, we need to give up. There's a time to release. There's a time to let go. There's a time to pray for healing. There's a time to hope for the future. And so I will often ask the family, how do you want me to pray? Because I don't always know how to pray. Now, usually when I pray, I'll ask for healing. And I'll ask for forgiveness for the people, or whatever the most obvious need is. But then I'll always catch it by saying, nevertheless, thy will be done. Because, here's something I figured out a long time ago. He's God and I'm not. And I've got that pretty straight. Sometimes I argue with Him, but I'm getting that straight. So I want Him to tell us what to do. So, when we pick up in verse 39, we are beginning to see here about what to pray for. Let's go to verse 39. Those who led the way rebuked Him. Now, what was the guy doing? The blind guy was sitting on the side of the road, making a fool out of himself. He was, let's be honest. He was crying out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. So he was crying out, but he shouted out all the more. They told him to be quiet, but he shouted out all the more, have mercy on me. Son of David, have mercy on me. Well, who is this guy? Well, let's figure it out for a moment. A blind person was considered to be the bottom of the social barrel at this time. Why is that? Because in those days, blindness was truly a handicap. Today, of course, we know handicapped people are productive in society. They do everything that they take care of themselves. In other words, it's a different world today. But in that day, a blind person was not employable. A blind person, the only thing he could do was sit on the side of the road and beg for money. And so we find him at the bottom of the barrel. Socially, he was an outcast. He was looked down upon. And so when he began to cry out, you know what I think happened? I think he embarrassed people. I really do. I think he embarrassed the disciples. Shut him up. Tell him to be quiet. He's just an old blind man. Tell him to be quiet. Well, don't bother Jesus. He's too important for the likes of you. I'm sure things like that were said, and probably that blind guy felt that way, except we see in this a desperation, and he's crying out, Lord, have mercy on me. We find from the stories of the Bible, especially about the life of Jesus, that he was drawn to those sideline people. Did you know that? He's always seemed to have a gravity, a magnetic draw, that he always wanted to move near to the sinners, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, those people that society had marginalized and said, put over in the corner. Jesus was drawn to them. Now, I don't know about you, but I get great joy out of that. To know that my Savior loves the down and out as well as the up and out. And because sometimes, have you ever felt down and out and like nobody cared for you and nobody loved you and nobody wanted you to hear what you had to say? Of course we do. And I get great joy knowing that my Jesus was drawn to those sorts of people. So he was drawn to him. We get a lot of pushback from this world anytime we want to see God work. We know that. Family and friends can discourage us on our spiritual journey. They really can. But let me say to you, don't ever allow anybody to keep you from what God has put you here to do. Don't let anything stop you, handicap or whatever position in life or lifestyle, whatever you find yourself. Don't let people use that to keep you from following the Lord. Now, whenever a person really sees what God's doing, not only do we know how to pray, we come awake, but we truly know what we want. Now listen, this is important that you get this. Have you ever heard anybody say, be careful what you pray for because you might get it?
Yeah.
Ever heard that? There's so much truth in that. Be careful what you want too, because you might get it. So you want to make sure you want the right things. You want to make sure you pray for the right things. Because, and again, how do we really know what we want? I've thought sometimes through my life, I wanted this and I wanted that. But nothing ever makes you happy until you find out the things God has for your life. Do you find the people that need to be in your life? Do you find the church you need to be a part? Do you find that? Then you think you want this. Well, here we go tonight. We're going to find this young man, and Jesus is going to ask him what I call a dumb question. I think Jesus is going to ask him a dumb question. Now, when I said that, just so you'll pay real close attention when we get to it. Because, of course, it wasn't a dumb question. But as we read it from the outside, it seems like, what? Okay, let's read it and then I'll stop talking about it. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. When he came near, Jesus asked him, what do you want me to do for you? What? Duh! I'm blind. Hello? Isn't it obvious what I want, what I need? And so, but I call this the poor dumb Jesus part of the story. Now, and I don't mean that sacrilegiously because it's kind of like it's like tongue in cheek. Jesus isn't poor or dumb. He knows exactly what's going on. He's not asking a question. Now listen, he doesn't ask us questions for his information. He asked us for our information. So we will learn. So we will know. So when Jesus asks you a question, he already knows the answer. He wants you to know the answer. All right? So that's what he asked this guy. Now do you remember another story in one of the Gospels? It's a story about another young man who laid by the pool of Bethesda. Anybody remember that story? Yeah. This young guy laid by the pool of Bethesda, and he laid there 40 years. Handicapped. 40 years. And when Jesus walked by him one day on the way to the temple, he says, do you want to get well? That's another one of those poor dumb questions. Do you want to get well? Well, of course, we think he wanted. He'd been laying by that pool 40 years, of course. But Jesus knew maybe he didn't really want to be well. Because he had a lifestyle. He had people bringing him food. They would take care of him. He didn't have to work. He laid by the pool all the time. So maybe the question was, hey, you want to get well? You sure? And so I think we have to be really careful that we ask for what we want, that we find out what we want more than anything else. Have anyone noticed besides me that the things I want now at 70 years of age are different than what I wanted when I was 30 or 40. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah.
Totally different group. And if God had given me everything I wanted back then, and I still had to deal with it, I'm glad He didn't answer all my prayers.
Right.
All right. Jesus asks questions to help us understand ourselves. He does not ask for information. Now, when you call out to Jesus, when your eyes come open, when you come awake, and you call out to Jesus, as I said earlier, everything changes. Let's read verse 42. Jesus said to him, "Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. When all the people saw it, they also praised God. So what do we want to know from this story tonight? Here this man received his sight. Now Jesus said to him, and I wish I had a full sermon time to deal with the next thing Jesus said. He said, "Receive your sight, because your faith has healed you." I need to talk about that some, about the importance of our faith. Now remember, I've told you, you don't have to have a lot of faith. You just have to have mustard seed size faith. But we've got to have faith. God will not heal against our will or against our faith. In other words, we must cooperate, agree with what He wants to do. So immediately he got his sight back and he praised God. When all the people saw it, they also praised God, because everything changes. All right. Ask God for sight to see what's really going on in your world. That's what we need to be doing. Say, "Lord, what's really going on in my family? What's really going on in my church? What's really going on in my community, my nation, the world? What's really going on? What's the story behind the story?" In other words, what's really going on? Ask God for insight and ask Him to give you an understanding of our world. And then leave what you've been doing. And I want to say it like this: leave your begging and begin to follow Jesus. Begin to follow Him. Let that be your lifestyle, your desire, your dream, your vision. Make sure what you're doing, leave it all behind and follow Jesus. When you know what's going on, leave it and follow Him. And then you will encourage others by what you've done and by your vision and by your faith. And those things, you can be a great encouragement to others. Sunday morning, we're going to go visit a short tax collector. Does anybody know what his name is? Zacchaeus. Sunday morning, we're going to come with Zacchaeus, climb the tree, and we might even sing that little chorus. So practice up on your Zacchaeus, and we want all the hand motions and everything. All right, so practice. We'll do that Sunday morning. I hope God has spoken tonight. He spoke to me through this as I was preparing, and as I've brought you these words. I've heard God speak to me, and I just again hope you have too.
Okay, let's turn to page 24.
It's a tax collector from back in the day, from way back. Oh.
Shackled by a heavy burden, as Scotty would say, we're all done preaching and praying and having a good time. So y'all be careful going home, and we'll see you Sunday morning.